Hi, Merry Meet. So, because of a discussion I had online with someone that made me go facepalm and who unfortunately made me understand why we have religious wars, I felt like making a video. So, I was over on a fan forum for my favorite fantasy series here the other day. And we got discussing if the author could have gotten the name for the main order of mages in his books from the Irish myth of the Sida. And I'm probably pronouncing that very wrong because I don't speak the language, but yeah. Basically, the fantasy series I'm talking about is Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, and basically he has an order of sorceresses named Aes Sedai, and that, but it isn't pronounced anything like the more original name for the Aoshi. I think it's pronounced Aishi, something like that. Again, forgive my pronunciation. But anyway, it is written very similar. It's just a few letters apart. So yeah, we were discussing this. And some dude comes in and is very upset because it's horrible. It's blasphemy that somebody would use a name that's similar to that because he worships these fae. And I get into a debate with him. I'm going to post a link to the thread in question down there, just if you're interested in reading it. And he says basically that anyone that writes the name of his gods, the Aishi, in wrong, or uses them for fiction, or basically, if they don't put even the name or any word that's similar to the name on a pedestal, they should be used violence against or be cursed. Yes, and no, I got into a little bit of argument with him on that because I said, hey, I completely respect your faith. I think it's a very interesting faith and I would love to learn more about it, but seriously, you are not, it's not okay to threaten violence or even speak about wanting to have done violence against an author that's no longer with us or anybody else. And it dwells into a discussion about religious rights. Now, just before I get to the main topic of this video, seriously, if you're that sensitive about your religion, that an author that has probably never heard about your pretty obscure faith uses a word that sounds nothing like the name of your gods, but which is written somewhat similar when the name of your god is translated into English. When that is enough to make you call for violence, then you should seriously reconsider your stance. Suddenly I understand why we have people from the Taliban going ballistic because a woman's wrist suddenly showed. But that isn't the topic of this video. My topic wasn't how much or how little does it take to insult your religion. My point is this. Basically, how far does religious freedom go? Because further on in the debate, the moderator showed up And while he didn't directly attack me, he sort of implied that I was attacking this other person's religion, which I would never do. However, I feel that religious freedom stops when you're starting to talk about violence against others. So let me make one addendum to that, because I was discussing this with some atheists a while ago. And they asked me if religion became illegal and somebody came and tried to stop you from worshipping your religion, would you then use violence? Hell yes. But here's the difference. If I use violence to defend myself and defend my right to practice my religion, that is something very different than using violence to force my religion on others, or to attack them for some real or imagined slight against my religion. In the debate that's been going on in the United States currently about contraception, one judge said it very well. I can't remember her name though, so if anybody knows her name, please tell me. But what she said is that freedom of religion is to be a shield, not a sword. And I think that's very important. Your religious right is to practice your religion. You don't have the right to force your religion on others, even when your religion tells you to. So basically, to take a few examples here, let's say we have a Christian who believes fully that everyone who is homosexual, practices magic, or in other ways don't conform to their faith, needs to be killed. He does then not have the right to show up on my doorstep and murder me, even if denying him this is denying him the right to practice that part of his religion. Basically, I think that one should respect religion. I think that religion is such a huge part of a person's identity. It's usually an extremely important part of their lives. I mean, for me, my religion is definitely the most important thing in my life. So I think that you should definitely respect religion. But that respect doesn't go to the point that you condone violence. For example, I think that those Muhammad drawings is distasteful. They are a complete disgrace. Should never have been drawn. I think it's completely wrong to insult another person's religion like that. However, I do not condone using violence against the artist or his family because he has done it. And on the same line, yeah, let's discuss this about this contraception. It isn't right for a Christian to then get a medal in a non-Christian's affair, or somebody who is Christian but just believe differently about the subject, and say, no, I'm gonna go into your private life and deny you using contraception, because that's not his it's not his right. Basically, the freedom of religion is the freedom to practice your religion as you wish, as long as that doesn't affect others. Now, of course, some atheists say, oh, but if I hear somebody praying on the street, that affects me. But get real. There are bounds of reason. So if you happen to see me whisper a few words over my food at the cafe before I eat it, deal with it. However, I don't have the right to force my religion on you, threaten you with violence if you don't follow my religion, and so on. Basically, the freedom of religion stops at the doorsteps of others. Now, there are a lot of people that thinks like this. But what really disturbs me about this person I was talking about is that he is pagan, and I've never heard such views expressed by a pagan before. Basically, if anybody should, even if they knew about religion or not, I mean, if the author in question had been a follower of his religion, I could sort of understand his outrage that he then committed a sin against their religion, but he's not. He probably didn't even know that religion existed. And then say that anyone who speaks about his gods in a way that he doesn't find reverent enough should be killed. They should be cursed or they should be killed. That means anyone that has ever used the word banshee for something like on a sports good or in a fantasy book or in a fantasy game, or even saying that oh, I bathed my dog for the first time now, the little puppy, she screamed like a banshee. Then if you say that, you should die, according to this guy. And I'm saying no. And I'm saying that it's very important for people to speak up against that kind of fanatism. Whatever religion you're following, if a member of your religion calls out for that kind of bullshit, you have to put your foot down and say no, that's not accepted. Now, do I think it's right to defend the honor of your gods, defend your religion? Yes, by all means do that, but do it non-violently. I mean, if somebody insults the the various gods I worship, will I speak for them? Yes, though I don't think they need me to speak for them. They are gods. They are fully capable of defending their own honor. But yes, will I speak up? Yes. Will I be insulted? Yes. Would I at times, if I had that person right beside me, feel the urge to yes, but I restrain that urge. Because basically, if there's going to be freedom of religion and freedom of speech, that has to apply for everyone, including those that don't believe as I do. Now, I respect this young person's right to believe as he wants. And that was when he said, oh, you don't respect my religion. Horrible, horrible, horrible. So I respect his religion. But I don't respect his right to threaten or use violence against those who don't follow the doctrines of his faith. It's the same with Christians. I respect the Christian religion. I think it's a great religion. But for those that would use violence to ensure that people were following it, I don't respect that. Or those that would use laws to try to force people to follow their religions, like for example in the United States, all those that are against gay marriage on religious grounds. I think that is appalling. And not just because I'm bisexual, but because that is trying to enforce your religion on others. You think homosexuality is a sin, and therefore nobody else can be homosexual. And that's not right. You have the right to definitely not be homosexual yourself. You have the right to not do things that you think is sin. But you don't have the right to force others, even if your religion says it. And that is the same with, for example, a healthcare professional. There's been quite a few debates on that, both in the States and here in Norway, about what if you have a Christian who is who then thinks that contraception, abortion, all these things are sin. And he is a doctor. Yeah, what do you do that? Well, I think that if there is another doctor that is okay with it, working in the same hospital or the same medical center, so that if a patient has to have a consultation regarding an abortion or contraception, then you can give them over to that doctor without there being a lot of inconvenience for the patients, then yes, I think that that should be done so that the doctor in question can have a clean conscience. I'm okay with that. However, if there isn't a doctor willing to do it, or there isn't any other doctors in the medical center, then if you want to continue practicing as a doctor, then you have to be willing to give your patients any legal treatment. Basically, if you can't force your religion on others, meaning that, for example, in Norway, both abortions and contraception is perfectly legal. So, if you want to continue practicing as a doctor, and you don't want to then move to a private clinic that might refuse such patients, so if you want to continue working as a public doctor, then you have to be willing to give patients treatments that they are entitled to according to the law. Now another matter, for example, somebody who is a judge who is against gay marriage. Norway, gay marriage is completely legal, so a gay couple comes to him or her and says, "Oh, we want you to marry us." Now, if there is another judge that don't feel that way, I think it is perfectly reasonable for that judge to say, "No, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that, but Judge Anderson over here will be happy to do it for you." That's fine. But if there aren't any other judges, you can't send people away because they have the right to get married. And to then try to sabotage that by forcing your religion on them, that's not right. Like I said, I really agree with that judge who said, the freedom of religion is a shield, not a sword. You have the right to practice your religion as much as you want, but not force it on others. Now I said that several times in the video, but it bears repeating. So, yeah. I know it's a difficult topic because some religions have very strong elements that do impose it on others. For example, you have Christians who, if you're going to follow the Bible directly, have a list of people that should be killed because they don't do this or that or do this or that. And you also have the idea that you should go out and preach to others. Now, I don't have a problem if somebody goes out and preaches to others. That is fine, as long as they don't try to force it on others. And basically lots of religions have ideas like this, and that's the same with this guy and who was worshipping the Aishi. That basically in his religion, taking the name of the gods in vain, so to speak, is a great sin. But and that's fine, he can think that. And if he wants to protest these books, that's fine. If he wants to shun them, that's fine. If he wants to buy up as many of them as he can possibly get and have a big bonfire in his yard and dance around it, that's fine. But when he starts to talk about violence and curses are basically violence, it's just magical violence, then it's out of bounds. And then you can't call, "Oh, but it's my religious freedom to think and feel and mean and do whatever the fuck I want because it's religious freedom." No, it isn't. You don't have the freedom to force your faith on others, and you don't have the freedom to do violence against others on religious grounds. As long as it's peaceful, as long as you don't force it on others, you have the right to do whatever you want when it comes to your religion. And I think that even a lot more allowances should be made. I think it, for example, is appalling. There was this it would be about a high school, I think. Yeah, a high school in Norway, where they decided, okay, we need to have a prayer room for the school's Muslims, because they pray. A few of the daily prayers happens when they are at school, and now right now they're cluttering up the hallways. So we are just gonna put aside a prayer room that they can use, and also other people of other faiths can come in there and pray if they want. And the most conservative party, of course, went in and stopped it. And I think it's appalling, because who are these kids hurting if they are allowed to pray at school? Why, why wouldn't you have a prayer room? And those that talk about should hijab be legal, of course it should. If somebody wants to wear any sort of religious garment, their choice, their religion. I think that religious freedom is the most important human right. The right to believe, the right to not believe, and the right to choose your life path as you wish. But that still doesn't give you the right to harm others in the name of your religion. It doesn't give you the right to force others to follow your religion, even if your religion says so. Now, it's difficult, yes, because that means that you are encroaching on religious right in certain area. A very conservative Christian can't come and kill me and any other witch. Very glad for that. And so, but yes, for every rule there's limits. And when it comes to religious rights, that limit is harming others. And it is forcing others. Religion and state should be separated, and religious violence just isn't acceptable. I also have to say that I'm very disappointed to hear a pagan speak like this, because I don't even know if he would categorize himself as pagan. Most looking at his religion from the outside would. Basically, having someone within that sphere of spirituality speak like that, because we as a group have had we have been suppressed, our religion has been stepped on, we have been killed, we have been threatened, and some still are. And then to turn around and say that you would do exactly the same shit because somebody uses a name that's sort of similar to how the gods are, the names of a god are written in a translation for the names of sorceresses in a fantasy book. Unacceptable. So yeah. To end this video, let me just make that quote one more time. Religious freedom is a shield, not a sword. Have a great day, and blessed be.